This is I'm MD Wazizur Rahman, GET graduate from in 2015. We know that SAF Alumni South Asia Foundation is an organization from apex body of the CERC. So where there is a different institute in different countries. So in our institute, which is situated in India, Green Energy Technology, we basically learn our research on renewable energy. And part of that, today's topic is thermoelectric research and application in South Asia, the possibilities. So our main topic speaker will be the Jumlad Ahmed. He is currently doing He's currently pursuing his PhD in Australia. So at first, I would like to request everyone to just give an initial introductory about yourself, where you are and which country you are from. And then at first, Sultan will start the overview of the current situation of green energy in the South Asia. And then Jumlad brother will come with thermoelectricity.
Welcome. Good evening, everybody. This is a very nice event. Happy to see you all together for this evening. It's a proud moment for us. All of our alumni are working in different premier institutes in cutting edge research. And today, it's a good time to share your knowledge because in a COVID situation, everybody is confined in their room and involving in activities. So the best thing we can do right now is sharing our knowledge between our scientific community. So this is a good initiative by our students, our alumni, to initiate this activity. And I appreciate all of you for participating in this event. We are waiting for Jumlad's presentation. It's a very interesting field, emerging field that has a lot of application from small things to very high-end applications. Even from a kerosene lamp to a nuclear power station, you will get thermal energy. It's a wastage of energy in the form of thermal energy. How that can be utilized? That is the thought behind this initiative. And we in the Asian countries, they can do a lot of things for the upgradation of our technology. So I appreciate and congratulate Jumlad Ahmed for his wonderful research in this area. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Professor Ilumalai, sir.
Yes, it's good evening, one and all. It's good to see many of you after a long time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
We are very much proud of you all. And in this pandemic situation, it's a good idea that you could gather people all over the world through this platform. It's a very good occasion. As Dr. RP rightly pointed out, that it is a good occasion to share and what we have been enjoying in our academic activity. Okay, so the department is very much proud of you all. And it starts with the first batch student Yashir, and I see Ranjan Bhatta, and Vijay Babu, Sultan Muhammad. I think he's enjoying like we have been seeing your Facebook update like anything. You have become more like a Japanese Sultan. Shidal, and so we are very happy. We are more than that. We are very much overwhelmed about your performances. Okay, so whatever you do, and Ashir has become director, and Ranjan has become associate director. We are very much proud of all of you. So it's a good occasion to be in this platform, and I'm very much eager to listen to Jumlad. Where is that gold medalist man?
This is with me, sir.
Good evening. Yeah. So we are very much eager to listen to you. The fantastic work that you have been doing. And I must say that SAF nominated so far, even the current batch also, the best profiles of a student. Okay, we hardly had any such student who lacked in the subject. Either they went with the gold medalist or best performance. In the last academic council meeting, that's what I informed our SAF officials. I have made the profile and I displayed the performance. And it is very amazing. 4 gold medalists so far from SAF student. Yashir gone, it is more than 6-7 years. How much we have progressed, I think you can witness. Okay, so our center has become recently department. Okay, from last 2019 December we got this order, and we are very much happy that center has become a department. It's not simply coming, and we have worked for that. We have performed that much, and you will see that hereafter it will be a department of green energy technology, and we have much more privileges to perform in the days to come. And this is the profile, as you know, your teachers. Okay. And this is what the statistics. So now we have increased the intake from 26 to 34 total. So unfortunately, SAF remains same, maybe due to financial limitations, etc. So we have put up so far 210 number of students passed out, and which includes about 50, more than 50 of SAF student. Okay, SAF student, as you know. And you are all one among those 50 students. Well, and this the distribution. Okay, so these are the list of SAF alumni. About 40, 50, up to 42. So that is excluding the current student. I will show in the next. I think there are 4 gold medalists. You see here 4 gold medalists, which are mentioned in blue. This Yogesh Dal. Other one is Yogesh Dal. Jumlat, Tashnuma, Yogesh Dal, Abhilashabha. We expect maybe in the days to come also this list can go. This is the current SAF student list. I mean, so now they have just passed out. Okay, so Arjab and all those people. And now they have entered into, these people have entered into second year. Okay, so these are, you can see their portrait. Okay, you must be interacted with some of these people. And this is the last gold medalist who got in person. Okay, so we have progressed very much. All our faculties have progressed very much. We have published more than 120 papers, generated about 5-6 crores of project worth. Okay, so the department has published, especially I think this from RP Group. You can see that a very high impact factor, the journal and all we have published. Yes. And you see that when Yashir was there, this much list was not there. Okay. So now it goes, it runs into pages. This is only last year performance. Every year we have become at least 20 to 30 publication we are making in our department. And the patent also. Okay. So this is from my group, and this is from Professor Jaffer group, and many other things. We have also started collaborating with the national institutes and abroad also. We have effective collaboration with IAC, RPS, with other groups, and we have with other national also, like Malaysia, Mexico, etc. I think this much is enough. And your name also there. Yashir is there. Vijay Babu very much. Ranjan Bhatta, Rashidul, Vijay Babu. Okay. I think I do not want to take much time. And thank you very much. Let's
myself. First of all, green energy overview, South Asia. So myself, Mohammed Sultan Mahmoud. So I am the Safi scholar. Green energy technology 2015 to 17 Bangladesh. So currently I'm a PhD candidate of Naga University, Japan. So this is myself. So first of all, we can see the solar energy potential in South Asia. So solar energy potential for South Asia, Afghanistan has maximum solar energy potential 6.5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. And also for Bangladesh, also 5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. And also India has a very good solar energy potential. It's around it is 5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. And Nepal has a moderate solar power potential. It is a 4 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. And also Pakistan has a 5.3 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. And also Sri Lanka has a good solar energy potential. It is a 5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. But I didn't get the data for Bhutan and Maldives. I got some data, but I felt that it's not that much authentic, because I collected this data for on Elsevier journal, EPCN technology. So I got some data for Bhutan and Maldives, but it was not that much authentic. So I didn't put here. So, and hydropower potential is just I consider the total 100%. Among 100%, hydropower potential has India has a more hydropower potential, 46.97%, and second position is Nepal is around 25.99%, and also third position is there for Pakistan, 18.48% hydropower potential. And the Afghanistan has a very good hydropower potential. It's 7.83%, and for Sri Lanka is 0.63%, and Bangladesh is 0.1%, because Bangladesh has only 2 hydropower plants. So, and I think Bhutan has a very good hydropower potential. They have a more hydropower, but in research paper I found that for the country who's are facing the power crisis, so they considered only such kind of data. So they didn't consider the Bhutan. And this is the wind energy potential overview. So India has a very good wind energy potential, 24.67%, and Sri Lanka has a 5.76%, and Pakistan has a 31.6%. Like it's very good wind energy potential, and Afghanistan has a 37.93% wind energy potential. And also India has also very good wind energy for 24.67%. So here we consider the 3 main green energy sources, like solar, wind, and hydro. There are a lot of potential potentially existed, so we didn't consider, because we would like to show only short brief. So thank you, and I would like to come up.
So I will start with the basic of the thermoelectric, and then I will try to show some application of thermoelectric energy generation, and then some basic of thermoelectric, and then my work. And I try to find out some information regarding the thermoelectric research, the situation of thermoelectric research in South Asia, especially in India. So so thermoelectric device is a semiconducting device, and the basic principle is if you can give some thermal gradient across the semiconducting material, then you will get some voltage based on Seebeck effect. So that is actually the basic thing. So if you can apply some heat into end of the semiconductor material, then you will get some voltage, and if you connect the thermoelectric device with the external circuit, then the current will flow, and you will find the electricity. So it's a nice device to actually convert the heat energy into electricity. So, but what is the motivation of doing research on thermoelectric? The energy we used every year is being wasted in the form of heat. And the 60% of the energy actually is being wasted in the form of heat. So if we can capture that heat and can convert it into electricity, it will be a very good for energy efficiency, for sustainability, for everything. So the basic idea, the basic motivation is to capture that waste heat and to make it electricity. So there are some very good examples of thermoelectricity. For example, is it possible to integrate the thermoelectric generator with the exhaust system of the vehicle? Already the BMW, they have a concept car where they have actually integrated the thermoelectric generator with the exhaust of the vehicle. And another thing is for the deep space satellites, there is actually no alternative of thermoelectric. So if you want to send any satellite away from the sun, there will be no sunlight, and to run your satellite, you must to have a thermoelectric generator. That is actually the radioisotopic thermoelectric generator. And even you can charge your portable device from the thermoelectric. And the nice thing for the developing country, like in countries in South Asia, we can, when we are cooking in the cook stove, there is so many heat losses from the stove. So that heat also can be captured by the thermoelectric generator and can store in the battery. So later on we can use for electricity. Here is another example of thermoelectric, high temperature thermoelectric generator. It is developed by the GMZ Energy for US military. They have actually integrated 1000 watt. So large scale thermoelectric also possible. Here it is the example of that. So 1000 watt thermoelectric system they have integrated with the exhaust of diesel engine, exhaust of the diesel engine. So they have successfully demonstrated this system. And this one is actually done in Australia by the CSIRO, which is actually the Australian government research organization. They have done with the collaboration with Thermex, which is from the Indian company. So it's a joint adventure of Australian CSIRO and Indian Thermex. They actually integrated the thermoelectric generator with the solar concentrator for a standalone system and for the cooling system, for cooling, air cooling. So for the standalone system, actually, if you don't integrate the thermoelectric generator, then you need to have a separate electricity source to run your system. So here the concept is, if you integrate the thermoelectric generator with the solar concentrator, it can generate its own electricity to run the system. And the heat which is actually escaping from the thermoelectric generator, that one can be further used for absorption chiller. So it's a nice example of a standalone solar cooling system, which can be implemented in our countries. Now, some basic and some fundamentals of thermoelectric. I think I will not much more, but the main challenge of the thermoelectric material or thermoelectric device is the efficiency. And if you see the equation of the thermoelectric efficiency equation, you will find the first part is actually the Carnot efficiency, and second part there is a term ZT, which is known as figure of merit. And by this term, actually we are identify the how the thermoelectric material property actually defined by this figure of merit. Here in the here there are three interlinked parameters. First one is the Seebeck coefficient, which is actually the voltage, and then the electrical conductivity, and in the bottom you can see the thermal conductivity. So if we want to improve the figure of merit of thermoelectric material of the device, my material should have very good Seebeck coefficient and electrical conductivity, but in the same time it should have low thermal conductivity, which is actually a challenge. Because if you have good electrical conductivity, the material will be as well good thermally conductivity. So we need to have a good electrical conductivity, in the same time we need to have low thermal conductivity. So what we can do, this thermal conductivity can be divided into two parts. One is electrical thermal conductivity, another is phonon or lattice thermal conductivity. And the electrical thermal conductivity actually proportional to electrical conductivity. So we can actually do much with that. So what we can do, we can actually reduce the lattice thermal conductivity. So nowadays, everyone actually trying introducing nanotechnology, nanostructure, nanoporosity, grain, nanocrystallinity, everything to reduce the lattice thermal or phonon thermal conductivity. In a simple way, the heat transferring through the atomic vibration or by the lattice is the lattice thermal conductivity. And electricity or thermal conductivity, electrical thermal conductivity is actually thermal energy carrying by the electrons. So here we already said that to have a good thermoelectric material, we need to have a large Seebeck coefficient so that we can get thermal voltage, high thermal voltage. And it should be a very good electrical conductivity to minimize the internal resistance. In the same time, it should have very low thermal conductivity so we can maintain the temperature difference between two ends. So which is actually not very easy because they are very interlinked. So here we can see a relation between the GT value and the efficiency. So if you have a material which GT value, actually GT value is 0.2 or 0.5, and if you're some can hear some sound if you can. Okay, thank you. So if your material, the operating temperature of your thermoelectric material is 1000 degree Kelvin and the GT value of your material is 0.5, then you can find the efficiency of your material is around 10%. So from the efficiency, if you know the GT of your material, and from the efficiency equation, you can find the efficiency of the material. So currently, we'll see there are different types of thermoelectric materials. Commercially available thermoelectric materials are bismuth telluride, lead telluride, copper selenium. They have like GT value of 2.7, nearly 2.7 or close to 3. So they have roughly efficiency depending on the working temperature. They have efficiency more than 10% to 20%, in between 10 to 20. So metal oxide based material also can be used as a thermoelectric, which is actually my working field. I'm working on strontium titanate, lanthanum doped strontium titanate as my thermoelectric material, because it is it is chemically robust in high temperature and it is available and non-toxic. So if we think about the green energy or sustainable energy, then I think metal oxide is a good alternative compared to the commercially available bismuth telluride or lead telluride. They are also good. Their performance is good, but they are not stable at high temperature and some of them are toxic. So there could be a metal oxide could be alternative of other materials. So basically strontium titanate or barium titanate, those are actually insulating material with energy gap of 3.2 electron volt. But the beauty of this material, easily we can make them insulating, we can make them conducting or metallic by doing the doping. So normally we do doping with lanthanum, S-side doping, or niobium in the B-side doping to make them N-type semiconducting material. So which is actually very basic step to work with metal oxide. We need to make them electrically conducting first of all. So we dope it with the lanthanum. Here you can see the process. So to improve the electrical conductivity, we dope it with lanthanum. But our main target is to reduce its lattice thermal conductivity or phonon thermal conductivity. So we try to introduce some meso scale, means around 2 or 5 nanometer porosity in our bulk sample, so that it can scatter the phonons. So if we can scatter the phonons or lattice thermal conductivity, then we can reduce the lattice thermal conductivity. That is actually our main job. So we use some chemical process and we added some polymeric micelle assembly method to introduce introduce the porosity in our powder, and then that powder we do the SPS, spark plasma sintering. So we get the bulk sample, and the beauty is still making bulk, but it has some porosities in the nano scale. So we did the XRD to find out the phase of our material, and here we can see the peak shifting is actually confirming that our material is doped by lanthanum successfully. And then we did BET analysis to find out the pore size distribution inside our material, and we can see the ACM images also. Nice, we can see some nice nanometer holes in our samples. And we did the thermoelectric property measurement. First graph in the left rightmost corner is the electrical conductivity. We can see actually initially it's showing you semiconducting behavior with the temperature, but it becomes metallic with. So if you see the graph is increasing initially, so it's a semiconducting behave, and then it's going down, which is metallic. So we get reasonable electrical conductivity for our material, and with the porosity we have improved the CVEC voltage, and we got the most important thing, the thermal conductivity of our material. You can see with the reference, with compared to the reference samples, we have very low thermal conductivity, which is actually the achievement of our work. We have successfully introduced the nanoscale porosity in the bulk material to scatter the phonons, and we got low thermal conductivity. And we get GT value of 0.3, which is actually comparable to other literatures for metal oxide material. Some people have got like 0.4 or something maybe. So our result is also good, comparable to other groups. So this is actually my first work. I have done 2 more works. On one work in strontium titanate, another one in barium titanate, and try to improve the GT by reducing the main thing is reducing the phonon thermal conductivity. So now I will try to give some idea on the thermoelectric research and application in South Asia. I have found there are some groups in India, they are actually dedicated to working on thermoelectric research. For example, this thermoelectric materials and device laboratory from Department of Physics in IISc, they have very good facility. I checked in website, they have all the facility and they are doing good. And another group is from Advanced Materials Research Group from IIT Madras. They are also working on nano thermoelectric material. And another group from CSIR, National Physical Laboratory, they are also working on material. And now the application part, the Center for Rural Development and Technology from IIT Bombay, they have done a very good, very nice example of application of thermoelectric material. They have integrated the thermoelectric generator with with forced biomass cook stove, and successfully so here you can see the photo. So this thermoelectric generator has 2 purposes. One is to improve the efficiency of the cook stove by circulating air to proper conversion of firewoods. In the same time, it can generate 5-watt electricity, which can be stored in the battery. So later on, that electricity can be used for running your fan or charging your portable device. I think this type of application is very suitable for developing countries like us, especially in the rural area. And we can actually implement this type of project. It's very simple, but very effective, I think. Here is another nice example of application of thermoelectric material. They have integrated this thermoelectric generator with the exhaust of diesel engine. So here is the picture. So you can see this cubic block is actually the thermoelectric generator module, which is actually connected to a diesel engine so the exhaust of the exhaust heat from the engine also can be used to generate the electricity. And one of our SAF alumni, Muhammad Shihabuddin, he published a paper in IEEE conference. He also gave us a nice idea of generating electricity from the solar heat. So I think this is also very nice concept, which can be implemented in a region, in South Asian region. Another thing is we know that this thermoelectric generator can be used as a Peltier device also. So it's a vice versa. So if you give electricity to the Peltier device, it will give you heat. One side will be heat and another side will be cold, depending on the direction of current flow. So he said it is also a nice example of portable refrigerator, which can be used to preserve the medicine and vaccine. And this small size fridge can be operated with solar PV cells, solar PV panel. So it is easily can be used in the remote areas of the South Asia. So I try to give some basic idea on thermoelectric, my work, and some application of thermoelectric, which is actually possible to implement in our countries. Hopefully all of you have enjoyed my presentation, and I like to go back to Wajed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jumla brother, for your presentation, and it was nice and informative. So now I would like to request Professor RP sir, and also later on the Professor Elumalai sir, to give some suggestion and how can we take this thermoelectric research for South Asia, what kind of application and what's the possibility we have.
Jumlat?
Yes, sir.
What is the thermal stability? How many cycles this can survive? Did you check the number of thermal cycles this in your material?
We do 4 or 5 cycles for materials.
For publication.
Yeah.
If you want to make it as a device, it should at least go 10,000 cycles without.
Yeah. But the thing is that metal oxide, for example, my material, its melting point is 2000 degrees Celsius. So we only reach up to 900 or 1000 degrees, so which is very stable temperature for our material. So, but this other bismuth telluride or lead telluride, they have this problem, stability problem. But for our sample, we don't have. But we don't do that 1000 cycle repetition, which is actually very important for commercialization of the material. But normally, yes, please.
Okay. One difficulty with even solar thermal things is its storage part. So if you have more clever things to convert it into this form, even thermal, small thermal devices we can fabricate and then convert it into storage, chemical storage. Thermal to chemical storage things may be possible. Now most of the devices are electric to chemical storage, any such ideas emerging, thermal to chemical storage. Maybe Professor Elimide can comment on that, whether that kind of ideas will work. Thermal, normally it is electrical to chemical energy conversion is possible. Okay.
So Illumalai sir, if you have any question, you can ask.
Yes, thank you very much, Jumlat, for nice presentations, and
Thank you, sir.
you showed a lot of professionalism in your presentations. Okay, so we are very happy. And so to add to Dr. RP's observations, so the stability of the device is very important. Okay, so and I see that there should be a compromise between the performance and as well as the material. See, your metal alloys or semiconducting alloys, they will give better performance, but the stability will be very poor.
Yes,
Whereas oxide-based materials, they will be stable, but the performance will have to compromise. Correct, na? So
this is the challenge, sir.
Yes. So we will have to compromise cycle life as well as the performance by selecting suitable materials. So maybe if you want to generate very large power or significant power, so maybe you may have to go for a tandem configuration. What we use it in our solar cells, right?
This
so it means
sorry for interruption.
Okay.
This concept is also applying in thermoelectric also, segmented thermoelectric.
Correct. Yeah. So depending on the temperature region, you can fix the thermoelectric device so that the certain materials will be stable at a certain temperature. You can fix that material.
Yes.
Certain oxides are stable at a very high temperature, so that maximum efficiency can be obtained. This is one way we can improve the cycle life as well as performances. Okay, so regarding storage, that is very important. So we cannot light a stove or heat up with either chemical fuel or gas or coal, anything with the stove. So whenever we light up the stove, that time we need to use this thermoelectric converter and store it in a suitable method. So the best option is, as of now, it is a battery only. Okay, you can use it for fuel cell also, maybe to convert water into hydrogen, and hydrogen can be used in fuel cell. So instead of going 2 steps, so the best option may be to go for batteries only. So even a small amount of energy can be stored. Okay, so even the power generation during the lighting of stove at a domestic stove, even though the power generation is less, so depending on the duration, maybe a mobile phone, as it was a nice picture, mobile phone can be charged. Okay, so if you consider one stove, it might look very small amount, but think of a village or a city where we have a group of houses and everybody uses stove, I am sure. Okay, so maybe using LPG or maybe wood, but everybody uses, not everybody goes for electric stove, correct? So if we have thousands of houses and each house generates 1 watt of power, it is that much power generating. So we will not be having a better storage medium in that case. We will have to look for better battery capacity. So it's a very nice concept and nice work. It's a really sustainable means. So especially the developing nations like us, we have huge potential to harvest any sort of sustainable renewable in nature. Need not be solar. So we will have to combine whatever sources available so that we can contribute to something to the nations.
Yes.
So thank you very much. Congratulations for this nice gathering.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Yasir brother, for like what's the prospect of thermoelectricity if you discuss in terms what possibilities are there in Sri Lanka? And
So you can I make a request? If you don't mind, can you leave me? I have your online class at 7 o'clock to CSI SRTP.
Sure, sir. Thank you so
Can
much
I
for
leave?
joining with us.
Enjoy.
Yes,
So,
thank you, sir.
RP, excuse me. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Fine.
7 o'clock I have.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Proceed. Please
Bye.
proceed. Bye.
Yasir bhai, you can talk about the prospect in thermoelectricity in Sri Lanka.
As Jumla told, here also they are trying in small scale. As he told, they are trying from that thermoelectric power plant, they are trying some kind of thermoelectric generation. I saw when I visited the thermoelectric coal power plant, they are trying to tap the energy and to generate the electricity somehow. I couldn't understand that time that now I understood that they are using the same concept, thermoelectric concept they are using and trying to tapping with the help of the Chinese company. Actually, they hired the Chinese company, and because this heat production from thermoelectric power plant is making huge effect in the sea, because this thermoelectric power plant is situated near the coastal belt. It is making some kind of environmental effect. The fishermen also complain they are getting less yield after the construction of this thermoelectric power plant in particular area, and the sea cows and other animals also dying due to this energy which released to the sea. Now they are trying to tap that energy somehow to generate some other byproducts, and they are trying to use this thermoelectric concept. Apart from that, I didn't see any much utilization of this energy in Sri Lanka. Maybe I have to search for it.
Thank you so much, Yasir, brother. Now, Ranjan bhai, are you there?
Ranjan is there, but mic is making.
Yeah, if you discuss, and we have only, I think, 8 or 9 minutes more. So if you discuss about
2 minutes is more than enough for me. Don't worry about that. So thank you all, and thank you to our respected professors for joining us, and my friends. This is a very good initiative that Wazidur took, and Sultan supported. I suppose that this should continue, though we have some technical issues in our first session, but we will surely improve and make it better next time. So, this particular thermoelectric part is not my area of research, but all I can say is in Nepal, many larger industries are conducting research. They have the dedicated research unit, which are working on it in collaboration with the national level institutions. So, like as you said, I also need to explore more on it. What are the possibilities? What they are doing and all. But what I found out is we do this energy audit in larger industries. From the office that I used to work, it was the Federation of Nepali Chamber of Commerce and Industries. So they had this issue with the old equipments and all those energy waste and all. Now they want to convert it into some useful energy. So exactly the thing happened to me, what Asir said, that I was also not much aware what they are doing, they're wasting their time or what. But now Jumlat really, it was very insightful presentation, and I was not able to catch all those things, but few things, few things was very useful. So, but when Wazidur asked me, to give some comments or say some remarks on this program, so I thought I would share some scenario of renewable energy of Nepal in this platform. So I will quickly share a few points about. Now let's forget that earlier part for some time, and I will give the overview of what Nepal's renewable energy and overall energy sector looks like. I will just finish it in a couple of minutes.
Sure.
So, so Nepal's energy scenario, if you see now, it's nearly 69%, or say 70% is based on traditional sources, that is firewood, agricultural residue, dry dung and all, because of the rural structure of Nepal. And the forest alone provides 55% of the total energy requirement. That is, we are mostly based on the firewood. But 28.1% is available from the commercial sources. That is petroleum, hydropower, and coal. Coal is very less. Only the larger industries uses it. Otherwise, it is mostly the hydropower and the petroleum. So the stake of renewable energy is very low, very small. That is nearly 3.2% in Nepal. Out of that, also, I think Nepal's hydropower is not categorized as renewable energy, because when you go more than 1 megawatt, and it's not categorized as renewable, although it is clean energy. So I think it's the same case in India as well. The most popular renewable energy sources in Nepal are like micro hydro, mini hydro, that's less than 1000 kilowatts, and solar and biogas, of course. And when we see about the improved cookie stoves, I said the firewood was the most prominent energy source, and nearly 1.5 million plus households use improved cookie stove to increase the efficiency. And we have a lot of research in that area in Nepal. That's action research type, which will give some practical output. And 500,000 people uses biogas, which was a very popular example. And 22.5% households uses LPG. Until 2010, Nepal was struggling with access to energy. But in 2017, in 2010, it was 65% of people had access to energy. But in 2017, it became 96% had the power at their fingertips. And in 2017 alone, 71.7% of Nepalese household had electricity from national grid. And remaining 23 were off-grid sources, and now we have the innovation coming in the mini grid, which is based on the this mini micro hydro, and they are connected with the mini grid. So when we talk about the potential of energy, then nearly 80,000 megawatt hydroelectricity potential is there for Nepalese water resource, which out of which 43,000 is economically feasible. So till 2017, Nepal was facing nearly 15 to 16 hours a day of load shedding. But the miracle happened, and due to the changes in the system and progressive measures, efficient management, and newly added energy infrastructure helped us to end that completely into early 2017. And it's a matter of pride for staff family that engineer Bijay Babu, who works for the Nepal Electricity Authority, was one of those fighters who made it possible for Nepal to end the load shedding. That's all. I don't want to take much time because I see the time is running out. I have more things to share, but I will do that in some other occasion. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully in future we will come up with more success story of the SAF alumni. And obviously we expect all of your participant in this kind of seminar. And thank you so much again, Professor Ramindra Prasad sir and Professor Elumanai sir, also Jumlad brother, Yasir bhai and Ranjan brother for participating in this session. And hopefully near future we'll going to see you again with some topic, some problem related to green energy in South Asia. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have prepared the presentation regarding the renewable energy scenario in Sri Lanka. I will do it in next session.
Sure, brother. We'll arrange separately some session for SAARC countries. Yeah.
We'll do the sharing session.
I would like to add one point with Wazidur Rahman brother. Yeah, it was our first Yeah, it was our first attempt. So in next future we will do. We'll try to do better. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.